I was thinking about the video I made yesterday about the idea of kind of yoga being something in my life. And as I was making the video, hence the whole kind of journaling concept of this, I was thinking about how unusual it was that somebody my age got into something like yoga. Even though I wasn't doing a huge amount of it, it was pre-internet days really. But the fact that I even entertained the idea of doing yoga, I actually sort of sat down and did some maths on this. So I think I watched The Big Blue when I was about 16 or 17 years old. So perhaps 92, 93. And I met Umberto Pellizzari when I was maybe 18 or 19. So that would have been 93, 94, maybe 95. So whatever we're talking here, we're talking late teens, not early 20s, as I said yesterday, late teens and in the early 90s. And to be a boy of that age and into yoga, pretty unusual, I think. It got me thinking about kind of influences more broadly and how, you know, we select them, not purposely really, but how important those influences are. I've certainly had my fair share of bad influences, but I've also been quite lucky in some of the influences that I've had. Let me tell you about one of them particularly, this chap. This here is Paul Weller. Paul Weller's drummer. It's a chap called Steve White. I started studying and having lessons with Steve White when I was really rather young. And Steve was a massive influence on me. I kind of really wanted to kind of approach life like he did. And not only did he influence my haircut at the time and my choice of trainers, but he also influenced my politics. And I was very lucky to have that kind of major influence in my life alongside maybe some of the not so good ones. And of course, naturally, it got me thinking about my role as a kind of influence on people. And obviously at university, they're at a pivotal stage in their life. And I really do take that very, very, very keen interest in kind of making sure, well, firstly, that they're okay, but also that they kind of get the right balance. We have to be careful with them. We have to kind of nurture them, but also we can't like mollycoddle them. We have to be kind of straight down the line with them. But there's a way of doing that, isn't there? You don't have to be nasty. You don't have to humiliate. You don't have to kind of be just generally kind of horrible about approaching that way. You just have to be really honest. And a lot of the time students know these things, but ultimately, you know, I think for some students, having that kind of role model is really important, and just being aware that the things that I say are kind of like critical and that I have to watch what I say and the way I go about myself at university for sure. But then I was thinking about my kids. And this is where I came up with what I was thinking about today. You know, I don't know how much of an influence on my children I am at the moment. I know Indy's really into his music, and I know that he's really into drumming, and he really likes one of the bands that I was in, and he's learning all the drum parts and stuff. But I think for the most part, most kids, most people at university and stuff, they actually have to go out and find their own influences. They're brought up with their parents, they're brought up with their families, but actually a part of becoming your own person is kind of going out and getting your own influences and absorbing those. The broader your influences, the more unique you are as a person, I think. If you come from a very narrow set of influences, you're going to be a bit of a clone, a bit of a cookie cutter. I see this with musicians that are kind of just into metal. They wear metal clothes, they go and see metal bands, they play in metal bands, they kind of sound very kind of generic. Whereas the ones that are kind of slightly broader interest in other styles of music, you know, they've got a little bit of something more unique in it. I think that's the same for everybody. The more unique and broad your influences, the kind of way you blend them will really be yours and yours alone. But here's the thing I was thinking about being a parent. Whilst a lot of children go off and find their own paths and they blend all these things together, what I often see happening is people actually returning back to their influence, their parental influence as they get older. So I know a lot of people that kind of buck the trend. They went off and kind of did something completely different, maybe around about university age. But when they start getting back to like 30s, 40s, 50s, you know, they start turning into their parents, don't they? You kind of see it. If you know a family really, really well, you kind of look at somebody and go, oh my God, you know, John's basically turned into his dad, or how much like Emily's just like her mum, and things like this, you know what I mean? You kind of just end up turning back into your parents at the end. So I think no matter, you know, what stage your kids are at, if you're lucky enough to have them, I think a parental influence is really, really critical, that if they do return to that in the future, it's something they come back to for a sense of safety or nostalgia or whatever it might be, that actually we're setting a good tone. Because you know what, at that age, in your late teens, in your early 20s, you're very susceptible to stuff, aren't you? And obviously once upon a time we were all at that age, and to varying degrees we came out of it the other side. But I think it's really important, certainly for me, being exposed to my own kids, but also the people at university as well, that I take that role very, very seriously, if I'm honest. See you tomorrow.